We're keeping an eye on shares of Activision this morning as well after a tumble yesterday when the Wall Street Journal put a story out midday that Activision's longtime CEO Bobby Kotick knew for years about sexual misconduct allegations at the video game giant. It's a story, funnily, Jim, that you and I have talked a lot about off air. Not to divulge too much, but we've discussed it. Remember when I shared the California lawsuit back in July, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, some salacious allegations in that lawsuit. But it's come to the fore now. Yesterday's story seems to have been a very important one. Interestingly, the board of directors of Activision rallying to Mr. Kotick's side almost immediately with a press release of support, criticizing the journal's reporting, saying they're disappointed. It presents an inaccurate and misleading view of Activision Blizzard and our CEO. They say instances of sexual misconduct that were brought to his attention were acted upon. But, Jim, this is not over by a long shot. No. And I have to admit that I was somewhat surprised at how quickly that board came out there now, they knew the story was coming, but to support Mr. Kotick.
Well, yeah.
Not the strongest board, I would say as well.
The central tenet of the piece was that he hid from the board. I mean, that was the tenet. Now, if that's untrue, then show us the minutes. Now, the minutes may sometimes leave out the more salacious aspects, but we have a cut and dried issue here. The journal says that Kotick did not, or lied by omission if you want to, did not mention the board. The board comes out immediately and endorses him, which is right. I mean, if there was a full vetting by the board and there was a big investigation, I get that. But if the board didn't know, David, then who are they to say everything's fine?
It's a good question. And again, having seen many of these in the past, I just wonder why they didn't take a breath there. But they chose not to. And so he does have their full support, it would seem, at this point. It's interesting, though, Jim, as well. So you wonder, could an activist come in here and make their bones as an ESG play? Although it's not clear to me who replaces him. He's an iconic founder/CEO, built this company over a long period of time. The performance has not been great, though, as we all know. And in fact, the last quarter, they did seem to be impacted in part by this problem. Certain people who'd left the company, certain development projects perhaps delayed as a result. And then there's could you get in there and try and get this thing sold, which again raises questions, certainly always on an antitrust front, depending on who a potential buyer would be, if there even was one.
Well, these are franchises within a company, and we know from Take-Two, which is even more, let's say, hands-off, that you could have a product, a great product like Grand Theft Auto, great product in terms of the financials, and if it's not ready, if there's some people who are not happy with the design, it gets held up. So when I heard, I had Bobby Kotick on, when I heard that they were delayed in some key titles, well, that's it. I mean, these are hit-driven companies, David. And it did sound like that not only is the eye off the ball there, but you see these people who are quitting. And they seem to be quitting in droves. If Bobby were to come on and say, listen, all things are fine, I don't know if his lawyers would let him. He can override his lawyers. I would feel a lot better here. But right now, I question whether the whole company's slate of product is going to have a gigantic hole, and therefore you have to keep selling it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.